eat a lot of peaches. I'm moving to the country. I'm gonna eat me a lot of peaches.
All right, gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning, America. Good morning, world. Good morning, Europe. And happy 4th of July. Thank you to all of us who are watching at this early hour. And we are here. We are here with Amos, as usual. We are here with our Oz. And we have a new face today. We have Daniel Roy Barron here, who will be talking about a project he is supporting, and he will do this in a minute. And before we are going to start, I like to ask everyone here on the panel, how are you doing? I would like to start with Amos. How are you doing on the 4th of July? How are you celebrating?
Say it, aside from the fireworks that I can't get away from, pretty okay.
All right. And Oz, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great. We're going to hide under our couch with our doggies because they don't like the explosions. But other than that, we're getting by.
Okay. And Daniel, how are you doing in Texas?
Doing great, thanks. Here in Austin, decentralizing everything.
Yes, we heard about this. Well, and here for me in Germany, everything is cool. Everything is all right. Of course, we in Germany, we do not celebrate the 4th of July because we are not Americans. But in these days, as Americans, and today, you have the big opportunity. You can celebrate completely on your own because there are no visitors around. And this is a complete American holiday today for you. And, around the holiday, I don't know who is celebrating this in those times with social distancing and with all the other stuff which is going around. I think it is quite difficult to get into a celebration mood, I guess, for some at least. And if we are looking at yesterday, we saw the President of the United States having his big event at Mount Rushmore, and here we can see him. I think this is exactly what he's dreaming about, that someday he would be joining the other 4 presidents there. And yes, this would be, I think, his milestone. And doing this, he did everything what he could to make this happen. As we know, this place is not even U.S. territory, or it was stolen from the natives, from the Lakota Sioux tribe, and those guys are not very enthusiastic that Trump came. They feared that, of course, the coronavirus would spread around. They were fearing that the fireworks would cause damage in many ways. And the most critical thing about this is sacred land, which Donald Trump, just took again for his own purposes. And it was completely, I think it's completely wrong. And if you look at a quote coming from James Bear Running, who's the president of the Ogallala Sioux tribe, he had a quote, and I think this is striking, and it is perfect. He says, "It's like if you try to go and have a fireworks display celebrating independence at the Vatican." And this is exactly what happens there. This is holy grounds for the tribes, and Trump just came in and he sent his white supremacy message again. More powerful, with more pressure than he did before, and it is frightening to see. And on the other hand, I think that more and more Americans see that it is not a way to behave at this moment of crisis in so many ways. And I hope that that more and more Americans come to senses and say it's enough now. And guys, I would like to ask you about his stunt yesterday, his performance. Oz, what do you say about this? Did you see his speech?
I cut in for a couple of seconds just to ratio the speech down on YouTube. It was pretty crazy, but it's the Mussolini posturing, it's the patriotism, the fake patriotism. It was sickening. I didn't throw up though. I waited till later.
Yeah, Daniel, what was your take?
Well, I really feel the U.S. is a totalitarian government officially, that happiness, fun, partying, having a good time, being able to touch each other, or, even having to sing or dance, has all been outlawed in this country. They just closed all the parks here in Austin, so you can't even go to a park. We have to wear these masks all the time. I mean, this is definitely, part of Trump. I'm totally into impeaching Trump, but we also should impeach the stock market. I've reached the point where we need to kill capitalism and kill the stock market at this point, because there's just so much corruption. To really get to an even much higher level of impeaching Trump, though. Impeach Raytheon, impeach Monsanto, impeach Unicor, for-profit slavery prison stock. So these are horrific stock symbols. They need to be destroyed and dismantled.
Yes.
And many others.
I'm sorry.
Just a few.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just a few of the evil companies that are out there, corporations.
Yeah, before coming over to hear what Amos has to say, another questions to you, Daniel. What do you feel in Texas? Texas was in 2016 a clear Trump-leaning state. And what do you sense? What is the feeling now regarding Trump in Texas, in your environment at least?
Well, it's always split. Like usually it's kind of this typical, where I'm at, Austin's very progressive, which I love. It's like a progressive dot surrounded by, conservative Republican, but typical, the major cities like Dallas and San Antonio have been more Trump leaning. But once you go, well, no, actually the opposite. I mean, the major cities are more like they'll be more progressive / neoliberal, which is another, those are two very different terms, but and then you get into the Republican, which is more of the rural areas. So you go to the small towns, and that's where you'll typically find the Trumpers. So it's kind of like that's the composure of Texas.
Yeah, I see. Okay, Amos, what is your take from yesterday's Mount Rushmore speech?
Well, it's not surprising, but it's very disheartening that in the midst of this pandemic that is rising now to catastrophic levels from disastrous levels before, it looks like we're going to really spiral out here, and predictions are such that our healthcare system is just not going to be able to cope with a huge wave that's going to come. So with all of that going on, it's not surprising, but it's greatly disturbing that the president chooses to go to Mount Rushmore and to stick it to the Indians as a priority, as a first thing on his agenda, not even mentioning the COVID or the difficulties we're having now with police brutality and so forth.
Yes, I think this for weeks he is. I hear more and more dog whistles than ever before in his speeches, more and more clear and direct. And as I said last week, and so many times before, I think he is clearly fueling a cultural war. Because he sees this might be his only chance to stay in office somehow. Well,
he's absolutely doing it, and the that video that surfaced the other time that he tweeted with a white supremacist shouting it, he couldn't have missed it. I mean, you hear it up front. There's just no way. And then for him doubling down and saying that that it was a conspiracy and doctored and it wasn't there originally is just mind-numbing.
Yes. We can see that he is turning everything around, which is coming from a certain side, and he is only throwing with dirt in every direction where he feels that he is attacked. And I think we got to see this for at least another 4 months until this problem hopefully is finally done. Saying this, we got to see what we're doing in the future in the US. We have to look at the system, the voting system in general, and how things could be fixed, for you guys. And there are so many ways to approach this topic and so many ideas. And I'm very happy that Daniel joined us today to talk about his project. And he, as I would describe it, is a more solution-oriented voting system. And I would like to hear Daniel Roy talking about this, and maybe you can introduce yourself first and tell our audience what you're doing and more about the project.
Well, thank you for having me on No Joke Uphill Media. It's been great. Appreciate all the introductions and the producing of the content. I know it's a lot of work because I've been a producer and a talk show host for 6 years. I host a show called People Power, #eTown Halls, electronic town halls. And the original concept of that came about from Ross Perot, who ran as a Reform Party candidate in 1992. And he pitched the idea of electronic town halls. People loved it. They were all over the place, all over the map at the time. And I remember that because I'm 52 now. I was around in the 90s. And so one of the things that happened from that, though, is there was never a blueprint. There was never the problem with Ross Perot is he never said, okay, this is what an electronic town halls is. So you can go all over the internet and you can search on e-town halls or virtual town halls or electronic town halls or local town halls. There's a lot of content out there, but usually what it means is just some representative blowing on about whatever they're going to do, rule over us. Our representatives are really our rulers. They're not really representing us anymore. Unfortunately, time and time again, we've seen they make promises. And when they get in those chairs and get elected, they completely disappoint us. They punch us in the stomach because they're being controlled by the corrupt corporation, and they should be wearing NASDAQ patches, just like the NASDAQ or the race car people that we see that wear these jackets with all their corporate sponsors. We should make it mandatory that all our representatives wear those same kinds of jackets. We need to know, put Monsanto on your back, Amazon, Walmart, all these corrupt corporations. I'm a huge fan of small businesses, and I love that Ticked Off Vic video where he's saying, we need to do everything we can to help small businesses and let all the corporations fail. They need to be dismantled. So that's kind of the gist of one of the expressions that we have is people power, power of the people, moving away from voting for people or representatives and move to vote for solutions directly. There's a lot of different terms for that. It's called decentralized democracy, and it's really anarchy too. So it's a combination of when you get our representatives who rule over us, and I'll do the math real quick, is that we have 3,000 people in the United States that actually rule over us. So if you add up 535 in the U.S. Congress, if you add up, one president, then we have who are elected, then we have one governor, and we have like 200 in our state houses or so. And then we have one mayor and 10 city council. Here in Austin, we have like 11 people who rule over us, the million people of Austin. So if you add up the 340 million in the U.S. and the 3,000 or so, these are our rulers. These are our queens and kings ruling over us. And so we need to move to another system. We've got this great technology, but even local town halls. I'm with a bunch of really strong digital democracy or anarchy people calling for that. But also, if we even just do a write-in ballot, I'm fine with that. I don't want to just be the electronic guy. I also want to push the importance of, okay, if you don't trust electronics, let's go do it, write them out by a ballot. But then there's another theme to our group called, and we do these ongoing conference calls, and you can contact me. I'll be sure and leave my contact info if you want to join us. We do a worldwide, people from Canada, Australia, all over the world calling in every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, so that where we're putting this into action, whether it's a mobile app or whether it's non-electronic, we just got to move the power back to the people. So another great expression of our group is decentralize everything. And I recommend everybody go check out a bunch of great content on YouTube. Just look up decentralize everything or decentralize. But I want to add the definition of decentralize is transferring authority from central to local government and moving departments of a large organization from a single administrative center to other locations, usually granting them some degree of autonomy. So the whole concept is right now in the world, even in Germany where you are and across the world, we're all being faced with, do we keep going down this path of centralization? More and more corporations are folding and becoming one or two corporations that are kind of ruling over us. Small businesses are unfortunately going under right now, left and right. Or do we go decentralized, which is the opposite path, where we actually, whoever the next administration is, got to jump in and do trust busting, get rid of these too big to fail. Another evil, stock market is the Bank of America. That needs to be gone. That company should have been not only delisted from the stock markets, but also these people in jail. These people need to face jail time that are doing these corrupt corporations. And I call it corporatocracy. So decentralized is a big part of it, because right now in the U.S., Austin has a $4 billion budget. It's very wealthy. There's more millionaires in Austin than any city in the world. And right now, so much in tax money is being stolen by the state and the national and even the international levels from Austin people, the million people that live here, that's being stolen. So it's theft, really. And if we brought back the money back to Austin itself, we could build homeless shelters. We could build amazing projects that really help the community. We could build community gardens, things that we desperately need. These are all parts of, and we could have public banking like Colorado, and even mint our own currency like in Washington State. And I'm inspired by the Yellow Vest, not just me, the whole group is that I'm associated with, Yellow Vests, and also the Seattle Autonomous Zone. Was disappointed they got cleared out recently. That was huge news. But they're still lighting up the streets. They're blocking traffic. They're protesting and really supporting Black Lives Matter. And we've got several people in the group that are Black Lives Matter, LGBTQ rights. So all these advocates for all the different causes that are pouring in the streets from the beginning of time. We are the common thread. We're saying, let's dismantle this current centralization of everything. Let's move the power back to the people, and let's move through decentralization. Let's use this great technology however we can to have wins in decentralized government, decentralized transportation, decentralized finances, decentralize the economy, and let's move it back to worker-owned and community-owned cooperative economies, resource-based economies like Jock Fresco introduced, and Zeitgeist, all these great things that we have an ability now to move and decentralize.
I see. Very, very interesting, and you can see that Daniel has a lot to tell. He has a lot of ideas, and this today that we invited him is only to get you to know him, because we are planning to have an interview series with him, minimum two shows, where he gets into details about what is needed to get things decentralized, to get the people heard, and in how far it would work. One important thing, as you say, it would be electronic devices. We would discuss in how far this would be safe. We would discuss in how far a people's movement, which I think is also the thought behind, would be working. What would be the content, the leading ideas for this movement, etc. All this stuff we are going to talk with Daniel, and I'm looking forward to this. We would discuss this. We will have Amos in the team as well, and Chanda Master, the accidental activist, also. I would like to greet at this opportunity. She's at home with her husband now, and she's watching, I know. I hope she's back next week. And well, as I said, there's some more to come from Daniel Roy, and interesting stuff, as I think, because he, as he said, he already mentioned the important points which we should consider and talk about. And Amos, do you have anything to add?
I just want to say, like a good summary of this whole solution. And one of the things I want to really emphasize: these are solutions. And I love the ticked off by Vic video. I just saw that 6-minute one that we'll play later in the episode. The only thing about that I would comment if I was talking with the gentleman, I love everything about it. It's great. The only thing is he's not offering a solution, though. Anybody who comes up to the plate, whether it's any talking head, and I call out people like Sean Hannity, but on the conservative side, but I also call out Hartman. I watch their content. Yeah. I see it. If you're going to bitch and complain and moan about something, give us a freaking solution too.
Yes.
I get sick of this. I don't want to just hear rants of everything being broken. Yeah, we all agree. Everything from A to Z is broken. But I just wanted to kind of wrap up this conversation with kind of a flow chart. I wanted to give this image to the audience in their mind. Is that, okay, imagine you're sitting around in your bathrobe and you've got a solution for your community. You've got some great thing you want to get out of, road construction or education or healthcare, universal health care. That's all things that we desperately need right now, eliminating all the debt. So you're sitting around, okay, just imagine you've got your solution and then there's a whole flow to it. Imagine like a flow chart. So you've got a solution, initially it's a thought. That thought becomes a voice. And what's beautiful is that voice becomes a vote, and then that vote gets implemented. And so not only what we're proposing, which is really revolutionary and evolutionary, is that not only are you creating that from your bathrobe, you're submitting it for the whole community and even the United States and the world community, because you can even vote for the climate. You can say, I've got this great solution nobody's ever thought of, and I'm in my bathrobe in the comfort of my own home. Why can't this go to the UN? Why can't any John Smith or Sarah or Sue, submit it? So I just wanted to get that flavor because it kind of is a good summary statement. Is like you've got your thought initially, you've got a solution that's beautiful for your individual, family, community, country, and even internationally. You've got your voice, and then that becomes a vote, and then it's implemented. And not only that, which is really exciting, you can actually apply for the job that implements it. So politicians are obsolete. That's another really popular hashtag among yellow vests. Politicians are obsolete, but what it does is now all of us can apply. And I just want to do one other quick example of that. Here in Austin with a $4 billion budget, Mayor Adler actually appoints, along with the 10 city councilors, so they appoint 4 city managers. Each of those city managers get paid like somewhere around $80,000 to carry out the $4 billion budget. None of them get blamed for any problems or get praised. We all point the finger at the mayor and the city council for any screw ups in Austin. But then there's these 4 hidden people that are not even elected, or they're not even hired and fired. So if we do this model that I just represented, which is really exciting, we can both vote on solutions, but also vote people into these jobs who become our administrators, because we still need administrators, even if we move away from the current election flow. But this is so exciting because then any of us on this call here can actually submit our names in the hat to get these jobs. So that city manager job gets open to us. So another exciting thing about what we're proposing is that we're moving away from recalls and impeachment. We don't need that anymore. Everything across the board becomes a hire and fire job. And I'm excited because Austin's a hub for techie people. That's part of the reason why I'm here. But I'm meeting with a blockchain expert who actually his company name is Decentralized here in Austin. I don't know how it'll go yet, but I'm excited to at least pitch this idea because I want to make e-town halls into that app that will do all these things. And one of the things I want to emphasize is critical pieces of it. We will have fact-based journalism and fact-based media and fact-based debate. Right now, the vast majority of news is fake. It's all fake news with fake history, and just massive fakeness. So a big part of this flow is to have really good content that's factual, that's backed up and verified and validated. And you can see references and all that stuff like we used to do in college where you had to reference things and make sure it was all backed up. So that's a crucial ingredient to this whole flow that we don't have right now. We're desperate. We're all desperate to find fact-based news, fact-based media, fact-based journalism, really, really good stuff that's tightened up. So this is all, I really appreciate this time and thank you so much because it's a good summary as we kind of close out. I just want to leave that with the audience, leave that flavor, and you can see how exciting it is, but you also see all the scams. Why should Trump be able to just put his kids in these high positions? Like, why should Ivanka suddenly have this great role and she's going around the world meeting these people? Nobody freaking elected Ivanka or Trump's Kushner, one of the most horrific people on the planet right now who's doing this gentrified real estate, just like Trump is horrible. But how can he bring his kids in? And the governor does the same thing. They bring in their own cronies, the good old boy network. And the mayor does the same thing. They bring in their cronies and who are not even elected. So all these jobs in government, when we talk about government reform, election reform, they all become a hire fire model. And then we don't even have to the whole recall is broken. The recall and the impeachment, we've seen how broken that is and how corrupted that is. Let's just move. Like any of us have a job. We go work, no matter what job we have. We all have a hire and fire model. So ideally, all the jobs under the planet should be, whatever it is, should be on a hire and fire kind of model. as I see it, unless somebody has a better idea. So this opens up a huge can of worms, and this takes these ideas of decentralization, direct democracy, anarchy too. I love anarchy because anarchy is no master, no slave. I love egalitarian, which is no rich and no poor. That we all get to an egalitarian, we get to a progressive, a beautiful society. We just need to get the word out. And so this is exciting time for all of us to use technology for good. And even if it's non-electronic, use it for good. Let's just get people out voting on solutions directly. And we'll see this. We'll move to a more utopian, optimal society.
All right. Great. Amos, your thoughts. Amos and then Oz, please.
Well, I think it's basically, there's a lot to talk about. I'm excited about our upcoming opportunity to discuss that, because it raises also a lot of questions as to logistics and possible complications that are not envisioned, that may come back the back door. There's always when you introduce a new system, a new solution, often there's unintended consequences, and I think that's important to also review and think about.
Yeah.
Well, I love that, because that's actually my background. My background is actually quality assurance, so I love people to challenge everything, because the only way we can make really good systems is through quality assurance. But I've got over 20 years of technical writing, quality assurance, business analysis, and project management. So a big part of my push is to actually build this app, because once we have it downloaded, if you build it, they will come. But I encourage people, because one of the things I do want to point out recently in Iowa during the caucus in April, there was a huge disaster. That was a horrific app that was built by this company called Shadow, and the DNC spent $60,000 on it. It was a horrific thing.
Yep.
And not only that, there's a whole thing with free open source code that has been hijacked by Microsoft and all these unscrupulous companies that are. I did a great interview with Brent Turner about that. It's on the channel. I recommend everybody go check that out. That for the longest time, people have been pushing for open source, free, community-owned software, and that's been hijacked by corporations and greedy, corrupt corporations that want to make money off of it. That, number one, that app wasn't tested. It was owned by the DNC, which is just another corrupt corporation, just like the Republican National Committee is a corrupt corporation. They're both just versions of corrupt corporations at this point. We all know that now. But the app in Iowa had nothing to do with quality at all. There was no testing on that. And it was also owned by some nefarious black ops company called Shadow. And people look it up. It's crazy. Some of the things that have happened this year, with the whole app. I think actually that was on purpose. I think it was a setup. I think they purposely created a horrific app to make it look bad. They don't want people to see a really good app when it comes to voting, because they want to scare us all. And that's what the CIA and the Black Ops have been doing for a long time. They've been defeating all these people-powered movements and things that they're scared shitless of what I've just told you today. There's a lot of organizations that will push back. But I encourage everybody to challenge everything I say and everything I do, any app that we have. And that's what quality assurance is. It's challenging us. But that when the dust clears, we have an incredible app, because then we have everybody being a doubter about it. And we use blockchain technology and crypto, nano, and things where you get a receipt for your vote, email to you every time you vote for whatever that situation is. And then you go in the database and count up the votes yourself using blockchain. We've got it right here. We've got this technology. We can do this.
Yeah, I see. Oz, you are running out of thumbs. So you want to say something, I guess?
No, I this is great. Daniel's bringing like an hors d'oeuvre tray before the 7-course meal. I'm really, really excited about what future conversations we're going to have. And I've got this grin on my face that I've had ever since you started talking, Daniel, because you're speaking our language here. Particularly Shanda. I got to give her a shout out today. She does the accidental activist. And she would probably be in line with everything you said as well. That being said, Daniel, I need to ask you, all the polls and all the fake news, as you say, are predicting a Biden by a landslide. Now, that's not a good thing in the sense of having representation in government, in my opinion. But Shanda's I'm kind of on board, and I believe Shanda is too, with this statement. The next administration will be ruled by these corporations that we've been talking about. You left out Amazon, though. The thing is that if it is a Biden administration, I think that's going to lock these corporations controlling our government even more than with this loose cannon we have in the White House right now. And I think the war powers that we've given away to the military-industrial complex are even going to go further than they have under Trump, because we see what happened with Bolton and those psychopaths that he has in his administration. Now, the only thing that I do want to push back on you is it is, I would say, not pushback, but I agree, fake news. And that's the rhetoric that Trump uses, fake news. What we have is we've had an effort by the CIA and the deep state for decades to use propaganda through the main news sources that have corrupted the thought process and ruined the critical thinking skills of the general public for decades. And I see that what you are trying to do is kind of like a medicine for that, and I applaud you for that. So all that being said, I support you. I hope we can get you on multiple platforms through Uphill Media and others to get your message out, have the discussion, and educate people. So thank you very much. Is there anything that I said that you want to push back on me or highlight?
Well, I thank you all, and it's an ongoing thing, and if people want to challenge whatever pieces and parts of all these proposals are, we welcome that, because this is part of what a democracy is about. And ultimately, actually, I just recently interviewed George Jorgensen, who's running for president, on the Libertarian ticket, and Spike Cohen, who's the vice president. I just did a couple interviews with them. I know this is kind of going to sound really big, but I put myself out as a write-in, as an activist. I've actually run since 2016. People can see that. I've been run. That might be where we talked before, where you might have seen me before. I've put my name in the hat, for the last 4 years, because I see this huge, downfall. I'm actually going to interview with Casey Wells, who's going around the country right now, actually registering to be a write-in, but he's also seeing these tremendous scams. I agree with everything you're saying. I love this show, and thanks for the opportunity. I welcome opportunity to be on more platforms and get the word out. I just recently bought this Shaolin monk outfit. This is actually from China. And this is my solidarity with the Chinese people, because we always have to remember, it's not the people themselves. It's these screwed up leaders, these horrific leaders. But the Chinese people are awesome. I love them. I love all the people on the planet. We've just got really screwed up leaders. They're all being in the pockets of the corporatocracy, the corrupt corporations, it's remembering the people at the end of the day. I love wearing the Shaolin monk because it teaches me about peace, and I feel more peaceful, and it feels like it just has a nice look to it. Even though I call myself a spiritual atheist, I don't even believe in a lot of the monk teachings, but there's a lot of great things about Buddhism that I do love, but I also love the indigenous ways. And I just want to comment too on the Mount Rushmore. Please skip over Mount Rushmore and go to Sitting Bull Monument. I've actually been to both, but I didn't actually pay to go in the Mount Rushmore because I was pissed off. I'm like, I don't want to pay money to go see the Mount Rushmore. Why should I pay that? I pay enough friggin' taxes. I just saw it from the outside. I didn't want to go in there. I got pissed off when I went there. But I ended up spending most of the day at the Sitting Bull Monument, which is 30 miles from Mount Rushmore. It's an incredible monument. And go to the museum, support our indigenous people. And that's one of the big things. Our group started a new hashtag called Return to Turtle Island. And just like I've been a truther, is that everything since 1776 in this country is fake, it's fraud, it's all been about the conquering and corporatocracy. And we've had illegal aliens in the United States since 1492 when Columbus came here. We're all illegal aliens from the First Nation indigenous perspective. So since 1776, everything is null, void, and including all of the elected people past and even currently are all fake. They're all frauds, everything about our election. And we need to go back to Turtle Island, which was here 13,000 years before 1776. There's a hashtag now called Return to Turtle Island and make America Turtle Island. I hate the word America because I lived in Brazil for 6 months, and it's like, that's America too. I don't like to use the word America, and I don't like the word USA either. Let's go to Turtle Island. So there's some great movements now to reach back and go back to the indigenous ways, which The Iroquois had direct democracy. Everything we're talking about today was on this place where we're calling from. And the Iroquois brought 6 tribes together in peace, and they brought in this beautiful direct democracy anarchy using the longhouses, and people can look that up. I encourage people. So if we make everything null and void and all our leaders void since 1776, we can go back to this. And one of the things, I actually interviewed another candidate for president, Steve Saylor, who's got a great website. Both of us are calling to fire ourselves. Like if somehow I were to be president and him, we bring in a council. I don't think we need a president anymore. Let's have with different subject matter experts that are running the country. You know, we still need subject matter experts. Like I mentioned before, we can move to administrators and anybody can apply for these jobs. But the Secretary of State is just as important as the president. He travels the world. He's the face of the United States. Why do we need a Secretary of State and a president? You know, cut off the head of the serpent and get rid of the presidency and just bring in a hired and fired Secretary of State, where we can all hire and fire a Secretary of State, 340 million people voting in. You know, I just love that kind of solution. So I love to hear candidates that do want to fire themselves, whether it's the mayor, the governor, or at the federal, national level. You know, run for these office. I encourage people to run, but on a platform to fire yourself within about 6 months, and fire yourself with councils that'll take over that. You know, let's transition to councils of experts that are in different areas like science and, you know, technology. Bring in the experts, let them shine, let them be the face in, you know, so that's more of the vision, this more utopia and optimal society.
Wow. Yes. Well, thank you for your great introduction. You made it very easy for us. I only want to come back shortly because you had an interesting thought a little bit earlier when you said, we are sitting here and we can decry all what is in shambles and stuff. And but I like the constructive thought behind, you know, that at least, you know, we have to move up again, you know, and we have to take what is in shambles now, and we have to do something constructive, you know, to have a positive thought in it, you know. And I'm looking forward to have all the discussions around this, because as Amos already said, you know, it is not easy, you know, if you have such a deep reaching thought, you know, to have everything considered which goes along with it, you know. And well, I'm very curious, I'm very thrilled, you know, to have the interviews with you and to learn more about what we can do about a constructive attempt to get things done finally, right?
Yeah, thank you. This has been great. I think there is a push now, and especially because we're all kind of in quarantine and shelter in place, to have more collaboration among really well-known podcasters. I just sent you, Marcus, a link by the Ripple Effect podcast, where there's like 20 really well-known. One of the really well-known people out there on YouTubeville is Colbert Report, and I really like his commentary. Not to be confused with the Colbert. There's 2 versions of that. I'm talking about Colbert, not the comedian Colbert Report. It's kind of funny how they're very similar sounding names. But I just sent you that podcast, and it'd be interesting for you to watch that. And we can circle back about that, because all of us are looking at ways to collaborate. And I've never been this talk show guy in my 6 years of interviewing people, where, okay, we just have an interview and then, okay, I'll see you. And then we never hear from each other again. I love to stay in touch, and I do my best with I have a lot of the people that go on our Tuesday night calls, and y'all are welcome to join us, are podcasters, and we share content. You know, we have prison reform people. I have Maurice, who I interviewed recently, who's 100% innocent. He spent 23 years in jail, you know, and it's only because he was born African-American and born in Mississippi. Maurice is starting his own charity, and it was for a drug offense, and it was all a setup too. He's 100% innocent, and this is our country. You know, really start opening up your eyes to what horrible company or corporation this place is. It's not even a country; it's a corporation. But what Maurice went through, and so many other African Americans, is horrific with these Jim Crow law prisons. And I've been exposed to a lot of content, and it's really, you know, people making 23 cents an hour working for Unicor that's publicly traded on the stock market. And, you know, we're, as taxpayers, we're spending $44,000 for each prisoner, $44,000. and $200 billion industry, when you add up the justice system, the corrupt police, the corrupt courts, the corrupt lawyers, the corrupt judges, all that corruption is like a $200 billion industry, and none of us have any say at all. We have no say at all. We can't vote directly to change that. And I'm just driven to get the truth out and to reform this system. And everything is broken, as we said. But let's move. We've got these beautiful solutions, and let's see how we can all get to that. So thank you so much. This has been awesome. Democracy and anarchy.
Thank you, Roy. Okay, thank you, Dan McCartney. My Biosurvivor Sanity ticket, $10 from Density. Thank you very much. All right, we are hearing more from Danny Roy in short time. We are going now over to another segment. We are talking about the EU and the progress it made fighting the coronavirus. And as I said last week, we are so far that we can open our borders again. But of course, not for everyone. We agreed to open borders to 14 other countries, but this excludes, as you already know, the US, Russia, and Brazil, and other countries. And I think in those times where Donald Trump is completely closing his eyes on the coronavirus and declaring that everything will be good, the economy will be great again as ever, and so on, the facts seem to be differently, because the EU doesn't think that the United States are doing enough to keep the virus under control. And as we know, the daily numbers, it is horrible. So the EU decided it is okay for countries like Algeria, Georgia, Montenegro, Morocco, New Zealand, Rwanda, Serbia, South Korea, Thailand, Tunisia, and Uruguay to enter the European Union, but not the most powerful country on earth. Not the country who is bragging, just having founded the 6th branch of the US military with the Space Force program. Well, this doesn't look too good, right? At least it throws a big shadow in the perspective of the European Union on the administration. The European Union clearly says the administration is not doing enough to keep their people safe. So the EU sees Americans as a danger, so dangerous that they are not allowed to pass European borders. And I think this is a big setback in the Donald Trump saga, that everything is so cool and everything is all right. It already has an impact on the American aviation industry. Earlier today, I saw a quick clip from a woman from that business who are very, very suffering now, and they don't know when at all they can go back to Europe, to do businesses or just normal travels. We are not talking about tourism, which is also a big factor in America and Europe. Well, we decide it is not the time. We let them out, and if you look at the numbers, if you look at Dr. Fauci, who is now more prominent than in the weeks before he was kept in the closet by Donald Trump and his administration, he's coming forward now, and he warns of more than of 100,000 cases per day. And this is absolutely ridiculous. I saw a survey regarding, it was Florida, I think. They got more than 10,000 cases yesterday or the day before. And it was compared with, I think it was 2.6 billion people on the world cannot reach 10,000 infections in one day, what the state of Florida can do, right? And the governor, Ron DeSantis, if I'm not wrong, is still stubborn, and he says, no, we are not closing down again. We are playing with fire, and he does not make any attempts to do his job, to keep his people protected, in my opinion. So there is Dr. Fauci, and he calls for everyone to wear a mask and to keep the social distancing. But as you see, if you got the Trump administration and Trump himself, who is not going according to this line and goes on with a bad example, not wearing any masks so far. Well, what can Dr. Fauci do? He's helpless. He only can warn, and the numbers prove him right, and then you still have Trump, who's neglecting all this. And if you see here the graph, you see the huge difference. It is absolutely crazy to see the graphs, and it explains, only the graph explains what's going on. And I think Trump may consider the steps taken by the EU, that EU is doing harm to the United States. Maybe it's a retaliation in his view. It is bullshit. It has nothing to do with retaliation. It is just a clear sense and the capability to read the numbers, right? And so it is absolutely impossible for the Americans, I think, not this year. I don't see any American within this year back in Europe, because after summer there's fall, and then the virus is maybe spreading again. It looks dark, and this is Dr. Fauci, and you can see it all with the latest comment of Donald Trump, and there I can bring Amos into the game. He found a nice clip where about the last opinion of Donald Trump regarding wearing masks or not. And if you can run this clip off, please.
By the way, thanks to Dan McCartney, he says we're his biosurvival sanity ticket.
I would wear, if I were in a group of people and I was close.
You would wear one?
Oh, I would. Oh, I have. I mean, people have seen me wearing one. If I were in a tight situation with people, I would absolutely.
You think the public will see that at some point?
I mean, I'd have no problem. Actually, I had a mask on. I sort of liked the way I looked. And I thought it looked okay. It looked like the Lone Ranger. And I think we're going to be very good with the coronavirus. I think that at some point that's going to sort of just disappear, I hope. And I support actually law.
Yeah. He looks cool with a mask, and as I call him now, the Looney Ranger, because it makes absolutely no sense what he's talking about again. And we saw this yesterday. Yesterday he was again without any mask, and it is absolutely crazy. And what is more crazy, what we here in Europe, or especially in Germany, cannot understand is the fact that there is such a war about masks, being masked or not having a mask on. It is people who are not familiar with what's going on in politics in America. They really can get it. They say, "Are these guys gone crazy? What's going on there?" And that a mask is used as a political symbol. It is hard to understand, right? And do you guys? I asked the panel, what do you think about the cultural mask war? How can we break through it, that we can give science the lead in this discussion and not politics? Do you see any way out of this? I would like to start with Amos.
I think it's completely ridiculous that Trump has for months made a point out of not wearing a face mask, and so has Pence. Pence has started wearing them finally, and Trump has said this now in favor of masks. But the fact that he was begged by Fauci and other experts to say something and to provide the leadership and example to people and his followers, and he hasn't done that, is so obviously a statement, and it's not a coincidence that his supporters are very vocal protectors of not wearing a mask in his rallies. It's not being done, and his venues are clearly stating that they're not requiring it. So it's not a coincidence. And now for him to change about face just like that and leave all his followers like standing there like idiots, having followed that, and like all of a sudden he's like pulling the rug under their feet, is just they're gonna feel very foolish and betrayed by that on an emotional level, I suspect. But I know people who work in the service industry, and particularly in stores in Republican areas. A dear friend of mine has told me that people come in and yell at them that they will not wear a mask, even though it's the policy of the store. And we've seen videos like that, and the personnel, the staff has to avoid giving them service or ask someone to escort them out, and it's become a real flashing point. The fact that somebody thinks that it's their free choice not to wear a mask, rather like we don't care about their free will because we're asking them to wear a mask, and meanwhile they're not caring about other people around them that they could pass the virus to, or the poor person who is at the register having to serve them, is just outrageous. And that's allowed to happen, and Trump has a lot to do with it. Is just avoided criticizing it, avoided making a statement on it, and frankly I think it's counterproductive. If we are to get the economy reopened on any level, this is just going to create such a disaster. It's going to cause more economic damage than if we opened it and used safety precautions while doing so. So it's a shame. It's purely a shame. It's a little too late for him to now switch and say, yeah, it's good to wear a mask, and I look good in a mask, or whatever he wants to say. It's too late. We're already at a peak. The peak is going to go past this because we're looking at the snapshot that's 2 weeks behind. In 2 weeks, we're going to see what's happened up till now, and that's going to be not a good picture.
Exactly. You're absolutely right. And what I don't understand in this connection, he is hurting one of his most needed voter base. If you look at the Republican voters, with the age of 16 and older, and those are the first ones, if they got infected, have the highest possibility to die from this, and I think he completely lost it, and he doesn't find a way out of it, and the only thing he sees is, as I said, the cultural war. To put fuel in it and see what's left when everything is burned down. And this is dangerous, And I say somehow we have to survive the next 120 days until the next election, and then I know Biden is a bad alternative, but in the end, he's no alternative who's putting the military against his own people and stuff, right? And I'm absolutely agree with what you guys said before. We will see much more things happen in silence, in the darkness. It is not there's not so much noise around it as we were used it from the Trump administration, if it comes so far. And Daniel, what is your take from the mask war?
Well, I recommend everybody go check out that movie that was a big hit Hollywood movie called The Boy in the Plastic Bubble, 1976. We're all now the boy in the plastic bubble. But I tend to look at it because I put my critical thinking hat on, because I really honor George Carlin as one of the late great comedian, George Carlin, and then George Orwell, 1984. So I want people to, see a bigger view of, to mask or not to mask. It's a huge question. But when we go down this road, one of the things I want to point out right now, all the sources that everybody's quoting is corporatocracy, corporate, fake meds, where, it's all about greed and money, these meds that are so expensive by these greedy, corrupt, like Bayer Corporation is horrible, and all these big pharmacy companies that are the big pharmacy mafia. But let's take a look at, there's a bunch of scientists, researchers, doctors, and medical people that are talking about integrative medicine and natural medicine. So I just did a great interview with Dr. Schrader, who studied under Dr. Andrew Weil, who's very famous, who came out with a bunch of books in the 90s and was on all these talk shows, was talking about integrative medicine. things like vitamin D, and immunity and vitamin C. I personally, here in Texas, just recently, the Governor Abbott had actually declared that we have to wear masks or it's a $250 fine. And so they've really come down hard on that. I'd never thought that would happen, that we would see things like this, that we're forced to wear a mask. I tend to be a libertarian on these subjects. It's just even like the seatbelt thing. I have a seatbelt. I use a seatbelt in a car when I drive. But, if one day I want to take the seatbelt off, and die, that's still my right. I have a right to, just like suicide, we all have a right. So I do take a libertarian stance on that. There's been times where I wear masks. I hate wearing a mask, but I've done it recently. But I just want people to go search on some other scientists, researchers, and doctors who are actually saying the masks are bad for us. They're having hypoxia, and that even doctors and nurses that work in these hospitals, they're actually pumped in, not necessarily oxygen, but I've been in hospitals before because my dad worked in one as a kid. He was a PhD researcher on cancer research. And when I was in the hospital with my dad, I did feel the air quality was better. So even if we wore masks in the hospital at the ER, they pump in a much higher volume of air. But if I'm outside and it's 100 degrees and I'm forced to wear a mask and it's sweaty and I'm, jogging and I'm not throwing the mask out every 15 minutes because I'm perspiring into the mask. I mean, there's horrific things that can come from wearing a mask because these doctors, and, we compare that to doctors wearing them, for big chunks in the ER, but they've got really good air flowing through them and they're not in 100-degree weather or even 20-degree weather when it's super cold or super hot. These are scenarios that nobody's even talking about. This is huge stuff that, to mask or not to mask is a much bigger debate. And the problem is we're only hearing the corporate sellouts like, I hate Fauci. He's terrible. And I used to work for the Centers for Disease Control and Quality Assurance. So I'm very knowledgeable about how screwed up that was, from a QA perspective. But, the whole bigger picture, I just encourage people, go check out the bigger mask debate. And I guess one thing I would say is that most doctors wear masks actually for bacteria, for tuberculosis, which is actually a much smaller organism, and that the virus is actually much, much smaller than a bacteria like TB. And they don't wear it for viruses, they wear it for TB, so for bacteria. So I just feel like it's a bigger debate than just to say, we should wear a mask and you're like evil, you're going to kill everybody because you're not wearing a mask. But we're not talking about immunity like vitamin D, vitamin C, taking an iodine and zinc and copper and, iodine and selenium. So, it's just, let's look at a much bigger picture than just a mask. Let's go behind it.
The thing is, in my opinion, that we are still driving in the dark, and we are not knowing enough about the virus, and everything we are doing is something is maybe because we are doing something, it might be good, But I think in the end we should not risk anything, And as long as we are not sure, as long as it is not clear what we really have to deal with, because I read today that the virus is already mutating, as it seems, As long as we don't know what is going on exactly, I think we should follow those experiences and those results we have from science. And I think it is not a good idea to divide science in right-wing science or left-wing science. I think science should be obsolete and untouchable, because it is science. It is no question of believing it, And
well, my point is that you were just not hearing from a lot of other people who are just as well educated. We're just hearing from the corporate versions of these, in the medical fields. But things like herd immunity, that now these kids, now that we're all boys in a bubble or girls in a bubble, we're all stuck and, our immunities are going down and we're forced to stay inside. So we're not getting the vitamin D from the sun. And the other thing is we're not also hearing about all the tremendous things that are falling out because of the quarantine lockdowns and shelter in place. We're not hearing about, there's a huge uptick in child abuse, domestic abuse, suicide, the destructions of the economy. So we need to hear also all the negatives. And this is what, I got to earlier when I say fact-based journalism, media, fact-based media that's supported up to creating debates. Because we haven't really had a real debate in this country since 1861 when it was we have to go back to Abraham Lincoln, debates back in 1861 to find a real debate, and then to find really good journalism and fact-based journalism, in media, it might not even be existent at the highest level. We might not have actually ever had it in the whole history of this country. But we have to look at all the pros and cons, and we're just only seeing kind of one side of that. So
that's right. I absolutely agree. Yeah.
If I may, though.
Yeah. Please, Amos, please.
Yeah. I agree with it. We have to look at different things, but I greatly disagree with Daniel about the fact that there is an equivalence. That it's just as sounds to say that people wearing masks are being affected negatively as it is that they're being helped by it or preventing further spread, because those things are examined. And I've actually looked into the claim of the danger of masks, and there's really no real experts in the area that are claiming that it's choking people. And if that was the case, think of it, people would be passing out on the street at high levels. It's not happening. The masks are designed so that that oxygen gets through. It doesn't trap CO2, and it's fairly safe. On the other hand, it's been demonstrated how the masks stop droplets from spreading out. They've done videos. If you can even look them up, you can see how the comparison is done between the spread of your particles from your breathing and from sneezing or whatever when you are wearing a mask versus not. So I don't think. And what about the fact that masks are just as much, if not more, designed to protect other people rather than you? You have the right to do whatever you want with your life, but what about mine? Why should I suffer if you decide not to wear a mask? That's a question to Danny.
I think the big thing is, we are seeing massive cases of headaches. People are not cleaning their masks. Like, the ultimate in this discussion is to compare doctors and nurses. They're throwing out these masks every 15 minutes or so, and they're in a much better oxygenated environment. We're not like that. We're actually trapped in our house, or we're in 100-degree weather outside, or we're, as it's getting we're in the deep bowels of the summer. People are wearing the masks. They're not cleaning them properly. They're breathing in. I've actually met people here in Austin who their face is outbreaking. They show me like acne is all over their face because they have to wear a mask at work. I was just talking with a lady about that. So, it is a much bigger picture. It's not just saying, oh, these people are evil, they're horrible because they're against the mask. People are getting sick because of the mask, and I've seen it. So I'm not sure your research and all that. I just, people are getting hypoxia. They have been passing out. There's been cases of that, because they're not breathing right, especially with those N95 masks that does restrict because it's filtering so much. You're not getting the oxygen you need. So I just encourage people. But the other thing is, maybe it's actually we're helping each other by sharing our viruses and our stuff that's coming out of our mouth, because if we close all that off too much, we won't have the herd immunity. And then we're all going to be immune compromised. Because I go watch that movie from 1976 about the boy in the bubble, and the importance of immunity. And it's a much bigger discussion, though, is that if we all wear masks, we're not suddenly all our immunity is actually being destroyed. And I've seen some school pictures, horrific pictures that I feel of these schools that are opening up now in like Thailand, where all the kids are basically in a bubble box. They redesigned the classrooms now where these kids are just completely isolated, but they're also missing out on the socialism, the socializing with the other kids. And they're just in this like freaking cubicle. I mean, I would kill myself if I was a kid having to live that way. And, I'll state for the record that I would rather just die of coronavirus than give up all my rights. And, pretty soon the government's just going to tell us that we need to crawl on the ground, and most Americans will just go along with it. The sheeple people will just start crawling on the ground because they'll say, oh, you need to do that to prevent the coronavirus. So we need to look at it from a much bigger, perspective. I'm not going to be the guy that crawls on the ground. I mean, I'd just rather die of the coronavirus. When it gets to the point where we have to do so many things and we're going to get in jail because we refuse to wear a mask or refuse to wear a seatbelt, I'm just not a big fan of any rule, really. I've never been a fan of rules or things like that. That's just my perspective of all that.
I see what you mean, and your perspective is welcome, because we like that we get into discussion. We don't have to be on the same line, because otherwise we are in a bubble and we don't have a fruitful discussion around this. In this case, when I would like to finish it with an example what Sweden did in Europe. They tried to get the herd immunity and they failed badly. Now they're suffering to deal with the virus, and I think we should stop it right now, because it is already quite late, and move on. And we are staying in the topic, and I would like to give over to Amos, and he found some interesting questions, to say it like this. Amos?
Well, first of all, I'm sure you've heard about vitamin D floated, and I'm actually surprised that Trump hasn't spoken about it. Maybe because it's not a commercial product and nobody can make any money on it. But there's been claims that vitamin D is greatly associated with damage from corona, or people who were affected by corona. And I looked into the matter, and the best you can say about it at this point is that there's not a huge evidence on that, if at all. The truth is that the study that they referred to was one that was done by a doctor regarding in London about correlating flu in general with or flu-like diseases with lack of vitamin D, and not specific to COVID. Later on, another study came out that correlated countries' general immunity to COVID with the vitamin D deficiencies in those countries. So this is like circumstantial evidence. We don't have anything yet, no smoking guns, where there is a direct correlation. And the danger here is that people are going to go out and overdose on the sun, get sunburn, get skin cancer, overdose on supplements, which can cause issues as well. What I would recommend is, like, if you are deficient, and most people of our age are, you should probably take a little bit of a supplement, but not the big quantities that some social media suggest you should. So that's been one thing that I wanted to address, because it's affecting every one of us here. And the other thing was a story that came up with Trump Jr., or idiot son in chief. Does that make it FSOTUS, or what is he? Is he FSOTUS?
I guess so, yeah.
So dangerous tweets for 400. He's tweeted the following tweet, and he says, "This is a virologist what virologists wear to protect themselves from the coronavirus. And don't worry, though, your bandana probably works too." And it's kind of dangerous, because if you didn't know where he stands on it, you would think that he's suggesting that you should wear something more substantial than a bandana. But he's making fun of it in the way of, like, don't even bother wearing a face protection, because you can't protect yourself like the pros do. So don't even worry. And the issue is that it's all a matter of numbers and chance. And the more you protect, the less chance you have of distributing it, and the less chance you have of getting it. Nothing is like seal-proof. Even if you're wearing an N95, and I was lucky enough to order one early on where I saw things sliding. I'm wearing that one. I'm hoping that's giving me a pretty good protection. I don't feel, by the way, any lightheadedness or anything wearing it, but yeah, it's just basically a matter of chance. I take my chance. If I wore a bandana, probably it would be somewhat less. There've been people who did some tests and compared the blue masks with other masks. So some are better than the others. And you should probably look that up for your own benefit.
All right. And there was another tweet, I think dangerous tweet for $800, you know. It is Ivanka Trump who came up with this tweet yesterday. Yesterday it was. And I think it was the same time when her dad was heading to Mount Rushmore, and you can read what she is asking for, you know, be safe and bullshit, you know, her dad. She should tell it her dad and not coming on Twitter and give good advice to people who give a fuck about her, you know, to say it like this, you know. And you want to go on, Amos, around the?
That was it.
Okay. I got some slides for you prepared, but okay, we will skip them. We are coming to, in my opinion, to someone who has the real speech for the 4th of July. And this would be Vic DiBidato. He's a comedian, and he has his own YouTube channel, of course, also. And he is discussing daily affairs which the normal American has to deal with. And in this speech, he is referring to the small businesses and how they are suffering right now. And we will give us the full 6 minute 55, because I think this is perfect for this day to day, for this holiday. All right, let's go, Vic, and buckle up.
You just can't hang them out to dry because you forced them to close. Hey, what do you hear? What do you say? My Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Google+, your sister's ass, the Pony Express. A very ticked off Vic here. You know what ticks me off? We're 3.5 months into this pandemic, and the federal government still has its head so far up its fucking ass and doesn't have a real plan to take care of its hardworking people. Now, just follow me, because I am so fucking livid, I can't even breathe. This pandemic thing got serious back in mid-March. Mid-March! It's the beginning of July now, and a whole lot of shit has become crystal fucking clear. 3.5 months of a lot of people unemployed and a lot of small businesses not able to even open up. That $1,200 stimulus package shit was cute, when we all thought we would be quarantined for 2 weeks and then everything would be fine and we would go back to normal. But that did not happen. And unemployment checks alone for 13 weeks ain't gonna cut it either. You ever try to survive in unemployment? Unemployment is like, starve me slowly so the pain is even worse. Let's stop playing the fucking games now, shall we? And the idiots say, oh, come on, just go out and get another job. Oh, sure. Everyone can just go get a job in the middle of a fucking lockdown in many states and a pandemic raging across the country with 14% national unemployment. Sure. Let me just stroll down the street from my boarded up restaurant and get another job down at the gym, which is also closed. What's happening now? After all this fucking time, the government had to get its shit together and develop a real plan, is this. People have fucking small businesses and you won't let them open up. Fuck the stimulus and fuck the unemployment and fuck your lack of a real plan. This is just wrong now. You cut their legs out from under them and ask them to run a marathon. No, now you gotta pay every fucking single bill they have every fucking month. You have to. You have taken away their ability to run their company or earn a living. If you're going to do that, then cover them totally. Pay their electric, pay their phone, pay their groceries, pay for them to go out and have a drink if that's what they used to be able to do when they could run their business. You want to shut them down, then you got to pay them. They paid their taxes every single day for years and years. You got to have a better plan than, well, I guess you lose everything. Have a nice day. And if you let them open with 25% capacity, then you got to pay the other 75% of all their bills. You just can't hang them out to dry because you forced them to close. This is torture now. You essentially said to these hardworking people, hey, you can't open? Good luck. What? These people have a home mortgage. They also have a business mortgage. They have electric bills for home. They have electric bills at work. They have home insurance. They have business insurance. They have personal car leases. They have business car leases. Who's going to pay these bills? These are small companies run by people who spent their blood, sweat, and tears building and running them over their lifetimes. These are family businesses started generations ago. These are new businesses trying to grow. If you're going to shut them down and keep them shut down, then you can't let anything bad happen to them. You have to protect them. This isn't capitalism at this point. Capitalism is survival of the strongest in business. If they go down because they can't compete during a regular time, that's one thing. But if they go down because you won't let them compete, that's a whole different ball game. That's not business. You are tying their hands and legs together and throwing them in a pool and saying, go ahead, swim. They can't swim. They're going to drown. Man, I'm watching so many of my friends suffer now. Some of them aren't even going to make it. We all understand we somehow have to deal with this insanity now, but there is no plan. There never was a real plan. $1,200 and some unemployment when your business has been closed for 3.5 months. Are you insane? State by state rules ain't gonna cut it. We see that now. Some businesses are open and some aren't, and some are open a little and some are open and then have to close again. That's not a plan. People are getting evicted. People are defaulting on their mortgages. People stop their car payments. People stop paying their bills. People can't put food on the table. You said you would protect us, and you all keep doing is just shitting the fucking bed. Seriously, we need someone to come up with a plan, and we need it to put in place like yesterday. If you're going to make business stay closed, can you make sure they don't get thrown to the fucking wolves and completely fucked and have their lives ruined and add to the homeless problem in this country simply because you didn't have a plan? These are hardworking Americans. These businesses are their lives. You are killing them one by one. Come on already. Enough is enough. Dead people were sent $1.4 billion in stimulus checks, and at the same time, people who had jobs and nothing to worry about were also sent $1,200 checks. And retired people on a fixed income who didn't need any money because they weren't experiencing anything different in their lives, they were sent checks. Meanwhile, most families who lost their jobs got close to nothing with no chance of getting a job. What kind of stupid shit is going on in here? This is let them eat cake bullshit. And if you don't know what let them eat cake refers to, then Google it. Stop giving money to the millionaires and billionaires and Fortune 500 companies who don't need help. Take care of the working class small business owners for once and for all. You fucking people disgust me, you fucking misguided, stupid fucking people. It's all right there in front of you. And you still fuck it up every day. Another mom and pop goes down because they weren't allowed to open and no one helped them. And on the same day, $1 billion company pays no taxes. The hard worker goes down in flames. The rich shitbag goes to their beach house. Go fuck yourselves, you ghouls, or whoever supports you. You're breaking the back of the American dream. You're breaking the back of the American dream. We're 3.5 months into this pandemic, and the federal government still has us at its fucking ass and doesn't have a real plan to take care of its hard-working people. That's what fucking ticks me off.
Yeah. I feel him, right? he's right in so many ways, and at least you got $1,200. Really, $1,200. With beginning of July in Germany, we decreased our sales taxes from 19% to 16%. You know, apart from all the other stuff which our government is doing to ease the pain, you know, for those people who lost their jobs or got on short-term work, you know, and it is incredible. It is clearly what we're seeing here. How capitalism is not the answer. How capitalism is the cause of it all, you know? And yeah, you see a government, who is doing nothing for your own people, and there is not even a price tag on what is coming. When the people are losing their homes because they cannot pay their rents anymore. This is the next thing which is coming, and it is crazy. It is crazy to see, and I think he's a comedian, but what he says here is absolutely not funny. It is not funny. And, well, I can only say it's terrible to hear someone seeing him so desperate and talking about his friends who are also in such a desperate situation, and not expecting to get any help from anywhere, It's horrible, and Amos, anything to add?
It's a horrible situation we're in. I feel the pain of everybody who's like, I know in my wife's job, people have already lost jobs, and it's very painful. There's not much that can be done about it, and it's going to be even far more painful because we haven't acted smartly and properly on time. So I don't know what's the solution. He I don't know if he would prefer them not to have closed the market, but people don't behave responsibly when you do open things. I just don't know what the answer is. It's we've never been in such a difficult situation. I can see both.
Yeah, I
both
see
sides.
what you mean. Oz, what is your take from Vic's rant?
Well, honest to God, I'm right there with Vic, and I would have stroked out halfway through that thing, I think. But I got to say that the end of July, the PPP, the payroll protections, ending, everything's getting turned back on. So far, well, even with the spikes in the COVID virus. I believe that August, September, October are going to be horrible. I mean, we think we've got it bad now. Wait till these houses start defaulting even more than they already are. Look at how much unemployment. Look at all the small businesses that are never, ever coming back. The fast food industry, the service workers, their families are scared to death for their own loved ones to go to work. I mean, this is not going to end in a couple of months. It's not going to be magic anymore. I don't even see the NFL going. I don't see Christmas. For those of you who partake in Christmas, Christmas is done. And personally, my daughter's getting married August 8th. I'm going to have to call her tonight and tell her I'm not going to do it. Even though it's going to be a small wedding outside. I'm still not going to do it. I'm not going to take the chance. There's no way. I can't do it. And I'll finish by saying I wear a mask for all the reasons above, but mostly it's to signal to those out in the public that I'm aware of what's going on. I'm taking every personal precaution, whether it's good or bad, for everybody, to show that I'm part of this big family we have in this country that is concerned about what's going on. So there's going to be PTSD from all of this stuff ongoing. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah. Daniel.
Well, overall, I guess I go back to self-governance, self-determination. I recommend everybody go to congress.gov, look up the bills that are in the pipeline. But I love Vic. He's amazing. And I always worry about him. I've watched some of his other videos that he's going to stroke out and die. I'm just waiting for him to pass away. And it's like, dude, I love your content and everything, but maybe meditation and some magnesium, maybe a little more calmer, but he's actually saying everything that's on our mind. That's what I love about him. Just like George Carlin too, is incredible. He just nails it. But again, like I said earlier, I would love for Vic to also come up with some solutions himself, whatever it is, whatever he feels like, and he's definitely nailing it. He's saying what we all feel. And so I love his content. I've been following him for a while, and I agree with everything he's saying, but go to congress.gov, see what they're pushing down our throats, and impeach the Congress too. It's not just Trump. It's a much bigger thing. Impeach Raytheon, impeach the endless wars from Raytheon and Lockheed Martin and Boeing, these horrible companies, and, impeach Unicor, the for-profit prisons, and impeach Monsanto, the horrible corporate farming with the Roundup and the pesticides and shit.
Yeah.
It's in our soil. So, it's all getting back to none of us have a say. What Vic is really talking to is that we, the people, power to the people, we are not voting on what's essential and non-essential business. We've had no say in what Congress.gov is pushing down our throats. They're actually just introduced HR 6666, which is a nefarious bill with 3 6s that will be a $100 billion appropriation that will create contact tracing armies. And I'm worried that it'll be like Nazi Germany. My ancestors were killed in the Holocaust, and that's part of why I do what I do. It's like I don't want the Holocaust and the concentration camps to come here. So I'm always going to side on the favor of freedom and self-governance, self-determination, that we, the people, need to be deciding as a people what's essential a business, what's non-essential. We as a people need to be deciding how our money's being spent, how our taxes are being spent and our spending. And our Bill of Rights, our privacy is sacred, our civil liberties, these are all protected things. And one of the proposals that we've got as part of our voting, just kind of a good summary wrap, is that we won't be voting on the Bill of Rights, that the Bill of Rights are sacred, all of the things that are included in the Bill of Rights. But we also need a homeless Bill of Rights, that if you show up to this country, I've stayed in 4 homeless shelters. If you have to live in this country with no money or little money, you really see a whole different version of the U.S., which is really Turtle Island. So let's see how we can get the people in charge, and let's be able to march forward with what Vic is screaming. I love Vic; he's awesome. I'd like to meet him someday. And let's bring in some great solutions. Let's bring the power back to people. Let's put citizens in charge. I love that too. Citizens in charge. Decentralize everything, self-governance, self-determination, and let's go research Congress.gov. Let's look at all the bills they're cramming down our throats that are like 10,000 pages long that nobody even reads. These ridiculous bills that they're doing. I've even interviewed some congressional candidates and presidential candidates and asked them about bills in Congress.gov, and they don't even know. They haven't even kept up with some of the stuff. Some of the people actually running for different offices and stuff, because we're all just so disconnected, though, from all these things being forced down our throats by our rulers. It all gets back to they're not our representatives, they're our rulers. So cheers to Vic. I love Vic. He's great.
Yeah. And to say it, well, I think you're absolutely right. We need a constructive way to see it as well. But I think it is also important, and this is why I love Vic, because he articulates all the pain, all the stupid things which are going around. And I think it's a good first level to enrage the people, to get them angry, that and then they hopefully reflect about what he's ranting there, and maybe see their own situation in it, and then come to the conclusion we finally got to do something. Because I think, from this perspective, I think it's absolutely okay what Vic is doing, and I think maybe it is too much expected from him to come up with solutions,
Yeah, boy, he's intense. I mean,
he is.
I suspect the reason he's recording it is in his car is because his wife doesn't let him yell at home.
I don't know, but I think he is safe. He has a safety belt on, so I think he's doing fine. All right, guys, we're coming to the last segment for today, and I'll make it quick because we are already far over time. We are looking at Americans, how they see themselves, and how far they changed their mindset regarding climate change and green energy, etc. And hold on, what was it? It was the Good News Network who came up with an article in which they questioned 2,000 adults in America in how far they changed their behavior. And I will only put on the list in slide 33. If we go through this quickly, number one is not wasting food anymore. 45% say they are having an eye on it. Second is turning off electronics when I'm not using them, is 42%. we cannot verify what the people say here, but hopefully these numbers are correct, that they are also doing it and not only saying it. On number 3 is purchasing food that is sustainably raised or produced, recycling more 34%, cutting down on plastic use 31%, buying products with traceability labeling 27%, reducing water usage in my home 25%, using eco-friendly products 25%, composting 24%, and fixing broken items instead of throwing them away 24%. I think even if those numbers are not that high as it was given to the survey, I hope and think that the mindset is going to change in the right direction, and that in the future there is more support for green energy and reducing anything which would harm the climate or our environment. And I hope it goes in the right direction, and this is so far the good news in a week which was not that good, when we look back. And I want to thank my panel. I want to thank Amos for being with me. I want to thank Oz for making this all happen. And of course, I want to say thank you for Daniel Roy for giving us his thoughts, and also for being in our discussion, for having for having different thoughts on things, because I think this is very, very important that we are not moving inside a bubble, and also that we can take in different opinions and discuss about them in a normal way without shouting at each other, what we can see mostly when people with different opinions meet each other, and I think this is the only way we constructively move forward. And with this thought, I would like to go over to Oz quickly, and he will tell us more about what's coming up next week.
Well, next week's going to be a little thin, I think. We are actually going to take a day off tomorrow, I believe. So this is the first time in 3 months that I will have taken a day off, I think.
I deserved it.
Yeah, thanks. But we've got the Convo Couch is in town till Monday. They've been on uphill, Fiorella and Johnny Tsunami. They've been covering CHOP. We have the Accidental Activist on Thursday night, I believe. We're working on the time. Savage Joy, she is going to have emergency surgery Monday morning on her eye. She's got a detached retina. They're trying to save her sight in her left eye. So everybody offer her wishes and get well soon, if you would be so kind.
Get well soon, Joy.
Yeah, she's got to be in a rack on a table with her face for 10 days, flat on her face through one of those donut things.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, so that's going to be miserable, but we all wish her well. And then we should be maybe some brave new future. And then next Saturday, you guys going to be back next Saturday with No Joke?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, great. We don't want to miss the No Joke. So thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. And Shanda, she should be back next Saturday.
Yeah, we hope that she's back next week. Yeah. And Dennis, I think Dennis will be back next week also. And we have the full team together. And as I said, we need to schedule the interviews with Daniel Roy about the electronic voting. And I'm looking forward to have another great discussion with Daniel, with Amos, and then with Chanda, of course. And that's all for today. I wish you a great 4th of July. Stay safe, keep the distance and do everything you think it is which would help you, And we are going out with Zoom Tea, Boom Shiva, and I hope you like this, guys. And see you next week. Have a good one. Bye-bye.